So why did we use this method? Well, that's because it's convenient. So we go back to the spline level within the modifier stack and open the stack in point selection mode. By moving the points or segments, we can easily adjust the height of the blinds. And that's why you should be very careful when doing the adjustments. The points should be far apart. Now this is a great method, but you should be careful with it. And so now let me show you a fast way to create Venetian blinds based on our Roman blinds. So here we have the track and the string to adjust the height. Let's say this time we need to create Venetian blinds. Venetian blinds are made of horizontal slats. Hello everybody, in today's video we're gonna model these Roman blinds. So they have several folds. Also we'll see how we can change the blinds once they're finished. The geometry will allow us to change the height of the blinds if we need to. So I've already prepared a wall with a window opening and inserted a ready-made window. I've imported references that we're gonna use. Here we see the Roman blinds and the track for this type of shades. All right, let's get down to business. First, we create a box that will be our track. It has the same width as the window. It's 50 by 50. Or let's make it 30 by 30. And then we convert it to editable poly. The side faces serve as plugs, so we detach the side polygon. Next, we put the pivot point in the center of the object. And let's shift and enlarge it. We'll give it thickness to the object by using shell modifier and make it fit tight to avoid a gap. Then we convert it to editable poly and use the hotkey to collapse the stack. Now we need to create a realistic bevel with the chamfer modifier. Also increase the amount a little, number of segments too. And then collapse the stack and click Convert to Editable Poly. Let's add bevels to this detail as well, although this time we'll be using chamfer within the Editable Poly properties. The number of segments is 3. It's done. Since this detail has no side faces, there won't be any stretching when we apply Turbo Smooth. Now we attach all these elements, apply the symmetry modifier, and check the flip option. And this is the detail that we've got. This detail is above the window. It's attached to the window frame. The fabric will be attached below. So now we collapse the stack and copy this object as element. Let's move it to the side. We'll go to the side view and switch to point selection. Let's change the thickness a little bit. The fabric will be attached to this part. All right. Now somewhere around the plugs, we're gonna add a string to adjust the height of our blinds. Let's not complicate things and just use cylinders. Seeing that these details are too small, we just need to achieve visual similarity. So let's create a cylinder. We increase the number of cap segments to cover up the side face completely and rotate the object by 90 degrees. Let's go to top view to make sure everything looks good. But it looks like we did something wrong. Let's create the cylinder again. Let's create it here to make sure it's strictly perpendicular to the wall. Alright, done. Next we turn on angle snaps, rotate the object by 90 degrees and move it here. Now let's model the blinds. We'll move the reference closer, like this. We go to the front view to check the size. The blinds start here at the top, and here at the bottom. So select a spline, turn off auto grid, and place a point here and start drawing a line. Now with the shading mode on, we can't see the points. This is because all of our objects are now at the front, while the spline is being created at 0 coordinate. That's why we need to move this whole thing further away. Now the spline will be created in front of our objects. Alright, let's go. Create an interim point for the seam. Let's create a small bend here. Here's our main object. We use Bezier points to contour it. Also here. All right, let's finish here. I'm just showing you the technique. In your own project, you'll be using a spline to contour the blinds in your scene. So next we select the extrude modifier. Extrude amount should equal window width, somewhere around 800 or more. And let's rotate this object by 90 degrees. We don't need the reference anymore, so let's just remove it. Right now we're looking at the back side of the polygon, that's why the object is black. Let's increase the width to 1400. The back side of the polygon is black. Let's use the shell modifier to add thickness to our object. Let's set outer amount to 2 millimeters. Turn off shading. This is the object that we've got. Let's not use turbo smooth just yet. Doesn't look good without fixation edges. So let's increase shell inner amount a little bit to prevent polygons from overlapping. And this is our main object, the Roman blinds. So why did we use this method? Well, that's because it's convenient. So we go back to the spline level within the modifier stack and open the stack and point selection mode. By moving the points or segments, we can easily adjust the height of the blinds. I had to change the blinds in my projects multiple times. One day the client asks you to raise the blinds to the middle of the window, then they change their mind and ask you to lower the blinds, and then again they ask you to raise the blinds all the way to the top. So the models from the catalog that we used all have the same size. Of course you can find models with other sizes as well, but if you need custom blinds, that's the method for you. Alright, so we've set the length of our blinds and raised them to the proper height. The blinds are basically ready, but there's still room for improvement, obviously. So let's use the added poly modifier to make our blinds more realistic. So we turn on edge selection and fix the edges. Here in the center we add one more edge on each side and make it look like some kind of seam, like the fabric is sewn together. We use the extrude modifier to create a small groove, because since we'll be applying turbo smooth to this object, we need a groove to imitate a seam. So we apply turbo smooth to see how it all looks, and we can see artifacts here and there, and that's why you need to pay extra attention. Now let's add some missing details to our blinds. First, let's add a plug here. Select it, click cap, then select side face and apply quad cap to modify the grid on the side face. Next, we need to create a string that will raise and lower the blinds. In the side view, we create a spline circle. Now, its diameter is slightly smaller than that of our plug. And next we click convert to editable spline to be able to edit it. So we switch to points selection and click refine. We add 2 points and then we stretch 3 lower points downwards. So this is our string. We make it as long as we need. We click the pivot point center tool and select the common pivot point. Let's make it a bit wider. We'll go to perspective view. Let's move it over here. All right. And now we need to create beads on this string. And we're going to use a sphere. 4 to 5 millimeters in diameter. Let's make it 4. And we'll reduce the number of segments to 8. And we're going to use the spacing tool. To access it, simply press hotkeys Shift and I. And we'll select our sphere. Then click Pick Path. And select the spline that we'll be using to clone our beads. Let's start with 200 and see how it looks. If we find out that we need more beads, we'll add more. Well, it looks pretty good. Now, we don't want the beads to touch. Alright, so now in the spacing tool setting, we can choose between space between centers and space between edges. And also we can choose between copy and instance. So we click apply, close the tool, we can delete the original sphere. And so now we've got this string of beads. It looks like a kind of necklace. Now let's group the beads so that we can easily assign material. Select the beads, leaving out the plug and the spline. We click group and give a name to our group. Now use the scale tool to enlarge the cylinder. Let's lower it a little bit. There's no need to imitate holes here. They're too small and won't be visible anyways. Shift the group of beads and the cylinder backwards. Alright, that's done. We don't need this spline anymore. We can remove that. The blinds are almost ready. We go to the extrude modifier to increase the width. Let's make it 1500 millimeters. That's too much. Let's make it 1420. Alright. Now click the shell modifier, then edit poly, and add 2 seams on the left and over on the right, so that it looks more like in real life. Seeing that it's only a couple of clicks, we won't be using symmetry modifier here. So select the edges and apply chamfer to these 3 edges. This is how you do it. Now, pay attention. The central edge will serve as a seam. This edge is fixed on both sides. We'll set a small extrude amount. And now let's apply Turbo Smooth and see. There are no artifacts. At this point we could try and change our blinds. But the problem is that our modifier stack is too big for 3D Max. And it may cause glitches, so it's best to get rid of it. There will probably be some artifacts, so keep your eyes peeled. So select lines. Here we click yes, and then click show and result. And try to raise the blinds. So we're using the points in our spline. And I hope you can see the artifacts. They appear when there's overlapping. And that's why you should be very careful when doing the adjustments. The points should be far apart. Now this is a great method, but you should be careful with it. We can move the blinds upwards and downwards, probably too. But then there are these artifacts. So to avoid them, you should avoid big stacks. So we have to delete Turbo Smooth. We might even have to delete the edit poly layer that we used for the seams. But despite all of that, that's a pretty good method for making quick corrections for creating blinds and similar objects. Let's delete edit poly. We can keep shell though. Click line and lower the blinds. And we can add another fold here. And you can make as many folds as you like. We're using Bezier points. New folds are clearly visible in the side view. Anyway, it's all up to you. I've showed you the general approach. Hope it'll help you create realistic looking blinds and other objects that might need changing later. Okay, so let's paint our blinds. I think I'll probably pick the gray color and move them closer to the window. Our blinds are as wide as the window, and now we place them where they belong. Pay attention to window handles. Let's just remove this handle here. And it's ready. The next step will be adding textures and creating visualization. Alright, and so now let me show you a fast way to create Venetian blinds based on our Roman blinds. So here we have the track and the string to adjust the height. Let's say this time we need to create Venetian blinds. Venetian blinds are made of horizontal slats. First, we create a plane. And next we need to set the depth. So in real life, each slat is about 1.5 centimeters wide. Let's make it between 2 and 3 centimeters. Doesn't really matter. I'm not using any references. I'm just showing you the method. So we need 2 edges to create a bend. We remove the one length segment and click Convert to Editable Poly. So we select 2 central edges and stretch them just a little bit. Next, we rotate the edges to a closed state. Let's switch to the side view. Here, the slat is closed. And next, we'll make a copy and put it so that it overlaps with the first one, blocking out the light. Now we switch to instance and create, let's say, 40 copies. How about that? All right, I think that's enough. And so then we select the shell modifier and set thickness to 1 or 2 millimeters. Let's make it 1. We won't be applying turbo smooth to these slats. Now let's group these objects, and then we click group and let's give it a name. We move the slats upwards and closer to the window. And now we need to create the lower edge, the one that all the slats will be attached to. We select the track and lower its segments. Copy it as element. In the side view, we can see its cross section, rotated by 90 degrees, and put it here. Next, we make sure there are plugs on both sides. There's no plug here. So we switch to border selection and select the border. Let's isolate the section for more convenience. Then we click cap, switch to polygon selection, and apply quad cap. All right, that's done. The slats are usually attached to this lower bar with a string. So let's create the string and the front view. It will be a spline object at first. We disable auto grid, keeping shift pressed, simply create a straight line. And next we need to edit our spline. We select the spline and keeping shift pressed again, we copy it. In the side view, we move these 2 splines where they need to be. Actually, there must be 2 strings here, so let's make another copy. Okay, so now we need to set thickness for the splines. We'll go to the rendering settings and check enable in viewport, enable in render. We'll set the size value to 6. You can make it a hexagon or an octagon. We set thickness to about 3 millimeters. And I think we've made our blinds detailed enough. We can clearly see the string and the slats. Now our slats are all instance copies, so how we can change that? First of all, we can change their thickness. But what about rotating? Well, we can rotate each object within the element. So we click Pivot Point Center and select individual pivot points. Then we'll select the element and rotate it. You can see it very well in the side view. Let's open the stack to be able to see. See that shell? All instance copies are rotating. We can also open our blinds. And if the client asks you to shut the blinds or adjust the lighting in the room, no problem. You can easily open them or shut them. We made sure to set the right distance. So when you shut the slats all the way, they overlap. Now the blinds are completely shut. Alright, thanks for watching. I really hope you'll find this method useful. Get ready for more interesting stuff in the next video. See ya.